Okay, so we just got finished talking about the stress response in our bodies. I think it's important to understand why trauma is a sensory experience. And to do that, I use a hand model that I learned from STAR. I think it's super simple to understand, and it's an easy way to help kids understand why their bodies might be acting certain ways when certain things happen. So I take my right hand and I just put it up here like this. The brain develops before we're born from the spinal cord, right? The spinal cord, my arm right here represents the spinal cord. My wrist represents my brain stem. My fist represents my base brain. And in there is my thumb, which represents the amygdala. And I talk to the kids about what that is too. So we have this base brain. It's a very sensory brain. It develops before we're born, and it's responsible for three things: sensations, affect or regulation of those sensations, and memory. Memories that are formed from the regulation or non-regulation of those sensations. That's what happens in this kind of very basic, primitive base brain. And then we have the outer brain, and I use my other hand to kind of show the outer brain. And after we're born, the outer brain starts to form, and it kind of, comes over, lays over. For little kids, sometimes I call it the front brain. And it controls things like processing, language, organizing, good decision making happens here, impulse control. There's so many things that happen here in the outer brain. And when I think about those things, I think of, those are really good things we need to be successful at school. Successful at school, successful at work, right? We need our outer brain. So we have these two parts of our brain. We have the sensory brain that, regulates those three things. I use the acronym SAM: sensations, affect, and memory. And then we have this outer brain. And it's so good when they work together. The problem comes is when we have lots of stress or we live in toxic stress, these two parts of the brain don't communicate well, or they don't communicate at all. Now, it's a very natural function for us. This is supposed to be the way it works if we are faced with a real threat. So I think about, there's a bear at the door. I don't want my thinking brain there, right? That makes sense. I want my reacting brain. I want my body to say, hey, get out of here. I want my body to say, hey, lay down and play dead. I want my body to say, freeze, whatever it's going to do to help me, right, survive. The survival brain, there it is. If my thinking brain was there, my thinking brain would say things like, what should I do? Should I stay here? Should I not stay here? I wonder what the consequence would be if I stayed here, right? It's a great thing when we are faced with a real threat. If we're faced with a perceived threat that's not a real threat, and our brains do this, and we're supposed to be learning at school, that becomes a problem, right? Such a good way to show why trauma is a sensory experience. And it's a good way to teach kids why their bodies might be doing things when something happens to them. Thanks for listening to the hand model.